There are tons of business podcasts to choose from, but only one has the stamp of approval. Kristin Stampini is South Florida's leading real estate entrepreneur and your trusted source for everything real estate.
I would like to welcome our listeners and thank you for joining us today for another episode of our podcast, The Stamp of Approval. I'm Kristin Stampini, co-founder of the Stampini team with RE/MAX in Boca Raton, Florida. I'm also a certified real estate coach with Craig Proctor and the owner of Global Virtual Real Estate Assistants. I'm a national trainer and public speaker, and my husband Mark and I are real estate investors. The Stamp of Approval podcast was launched to share and educate other realtors, consumers, and other business owners across North America by sharing value and content to our listeners in each and every episode. I share my experiences, my triumphs, my failures, and strength throughout my entire life with the hope of my audience being able to expand their knowledge on everything real estate, business, sales, and mindset oriented. And all I ask is if you like our podcast to please share it with others to enjoy it as well. So today I have Fred Morgan. Now let me just tell you, Fred and I go back 25 plus years. So when I've talked to all of the listeners about my restaurant, when I was in the restaurant business for 17 years before I started in real estate, I was working with Fred. I think I was about 26, 25, 26, maybe 27, okay, at the time. So every business, has a story. And in this instant, Fred Morgan and Doug Doyle worked together at California Pizza Kitchen, which is where I met Fred, for more than 15 years. Then they left the corporate life to start their own venture. A road trip to California led Fred and Doug to visit existing early players in the fast casual pizza space and thought there was an opportunity to improve the concept. On the road trip, they brainstormed about what they had learned throughout their experiences. Everything from dough to sauce to cheese to fresh herbs to meats to preparation and techniques that go into making a great pie. They thought about the first company to bring not only custom pizzas, but also custom salads to Arizona. No one was doing actually custom salad. Let the guests customize not just their own pizzas, but their own salad too, and change them and charge them a reasonable price. They knew what was right, and they could become a real game changer in the pizza industry. So basically, Doug and Fred's concept flourished in the first 6 months. Opened 4 restaurants. Now, I can kind of chuckle on that because I know how tough it is to open a restaurant. And meeting, actually, I know Doug as well, and meeting Doug and Fred at California Pizza Kitchen, when I read that, I almost choked because it's tough to start and to actually launch a brand new concept and then to open 4 restaurants at a time, in the first 6 months. So basically the restaurant that they owned is called Fired Pies. It's an industrial modern edge decor, hip staff, and attention to detail, which is what continues to separate them from other competitors. And, I love this part too. All Fred and Doug ask for in return is your inspire and they will fire. Okay, so welcome, Fred.
Hey, thank you, Kristin. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, I haven't talked to you, and I think it's been 25 years or something like that.
That's right. It's been a while.
So thank you so much. So, I really want to talk about this episode about being from corporate to entrepreneur. And you started back in Ponderosa. You said you were there 15 years?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, so what years were those?
I started with Ponderosa, must have been 78.
Wow.
When I started with them. So,
and you were a dishwasher.
That's right. I was still in high school. I actually was on a work program. I got out of school a little early, and I went and worked at Ponderosa after school every day. And I really worked my way up with them. Started with them and ended up being like an area manager for Ponderosa by the end. So it was it really got my foothold in the restaurant business and really taught me a lot, Yeah.
And then I met you in 1993.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
And how did we meet? Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, I do. I mean, I'll even go back a little further and bring up another Vince Corona name that probably brings back memories too.
Absolutely.
Vince worked with me. We worked together at
That's right.
Ponderosa.
I remember that.
Yeah, remember that? He's the one who
Yeah.
brought me on the CPK, California Pizza Kitchen. And one of the things he went early. He left Ponderosa about a year before I did, when Ponderosa was starting to close more stores and open stores. And he came to me and he says, "Hey, I found this great concept, man. You got to come work for us. They're looking for managers. They got this place called California Pizza Kitchen." And being a Chicagoan, I went and tried it. I'm like, "What is this? Pineapple on pizza, barbecue chicken pizza? That'll never make it. I'm not going there." And lo and behold, I think CPK is in their 36th year of being in business with over 350 units, and it made it. So, long story short, I decided to take the leap of faith and go work for CPK, and it was a big jump, right? I had my own region, I had my own stores. I it was all I knew all my life. Even though I went to school and a little college, I worked even during college through that, and so it was really tough. And CPK was very very hard, fast. They weren't going to hire you as a general manager. I had to start as an assistant manager, so I was taking this pay cut. I was taking this title cut. But, I believed in the concept. I really thought it was cool. I thought it was going to be something after spending some time with it. So, and actually, I think you were my training manager or general manager in Wheaton, Illinois, right? So,
Yes. Yeah. So I remember that. And I remember when you came in, I thought, wow, this guy's going to be good. And I was the general manager in Wheaton, and you came and worked with me for 2 months, and you got promoted. I think it's the fastest promotion I had ever seen into a general manager, where you went downtown Chicago and took over Water Tower, right?
That's right. That's right. I took over Water Tower. I was having struggles and issues, and I was asked to take that store over. And I guess, I did a great job there. And I was asked to move into a brand new store they're opening in Skokie, if you remember that,
Old I do.
Orchard.
Yeah.
And so I took that over, and not long after that, I took over my boss's position, Mike Patrick, and if you remember him, that name.
I used to work for him at River North.
Yeah, and then I was asked to become the regional Chicago, and from there I moved into I opened Michigan, St. Louis, Ohio, as a regional director with CPK, and ran probably the most restaurants out of all regionals for a long time, because in the Midwest, CPK didn't have a stronghold like California or even Arizona at the time, right? So we were very spread out, and we were opening a lot of stores in Chicago, but at the time we were, we only had, I think, 5 or 6 in Chicago at the time, and then the rest were outside the state. So
wow. So you worked with California Pizza Kitchen for 17 years. So
yeah.
you actually went from built yourself up from, obviously, regional director, where you were running about 17 restaurants or so.
That's right. And then
vice president.
And then regional vice president of operations. I did get promoted to regional vice president probably 3 or 4 years after being a regional director. And I ended my career as a regional vice president with CPK, running anywhere. Rick and Larry at the time would go from having 2 regional vice presidents to 4. But at any given time, I could have had 30 stores to 55 CPKs underneath my umbrella. So it was, and again, a lot of learning, a lot of great people to work with, and I tell you, it was some great times with CPK. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and I remember that as well. So, but you were there many, many more years than me. So, anyways, going from corporate. Okay, corporate Ponderosa, corporate California Pizza Kitchen. So you went, 32 years of corporate.
Yep.
Then what made you go into to be an entrepreneur? How did that life start?
Well, I always dreamed of owning my own restaurant, of being my own boss. And after leaving CPK, I got the opportunity to be a consultant for a restaurant company here in Arizona called Oregano's. And it was a local guy. Had, I think at the time when I got here, 4 or 5 restaurants, was looking to grow the concept. And, he was very entrepreneurial, and really looking at that concept and understanding and it wasn't very corporate at all. And I actually were able to bring in some of the corporate America stuff and help him grow his concept to 15 restaurants. And, at that point, I decided, hey, I think it's time, right? It's time for me to do my own thing. I've made a lot of money for a lot of people, and I've learned a lot. I felt it was that time to do it. And I brought Doug, actually. We talked about Doug Doyle. Doug had left CPK and was working in California, and I needed a regional oregano. So I actually brought Doug into Oregano's as my regional director. And once I made that decision that we were going to open I was going to open my own restaurant, Doug also decided he'd like to do the same. And so that's kind of what we decided. We were going to look for the right concept. And originally, to be honest, we were looking to do a franchise. And we started looking at different franchises, knowing that pizza was a great concept. We love pizza. And, the great thing about pizza is, right, from the age of anyone at the age of 2 can eat pizza to the age of 102, right? That everyone eats it. It's not like other food where there's certain age groups. It appeases the mass, and it's, vegans, vegetarians, you name it, you can get that on a pizza. So that's why we wanted to do pizza.
And so how tough was it going from, what was your biggest challenges going from corporate to entrepreneur along the way?
Well, I'll tell you, the biggest thing as we started to get ready and open the restaurant and do things, you turn and say, okay, well, let's get the finance department to look at that. Let's think about the payroll. I go, wait up. I am the payroll department. I am the finance department. I am, right? Because there is no one else. It was just us, right? So so then we had to define our roles very quickly, right? And, when I wanted to say, okay, we wanted to hire quality ingredients and what was going to have to be our food costs. And, in corporate America, right, I had a team of regional vice president of operation with 300 some restaurants at CPK. We had a whole accounting department, a whole finance department. I sent this, hey, let's do this. And all of a sudden I got all these forms and graphs back. Well, it was now my turn to learn and to do all that very quickly. So that was really the challenging part, but actually the fun part, right? It was to be able to do that, but really make the company feel very mom and pop, but have a corporate structure, right? Yeah. Because that's important because, as you get further down the road, because we never, from day one, our plan was never to have one restaurant. Our plan was never to just be solo with 5 restaurants, right? It was always to make a brand and a company. So that was every day we thought when we sat down, that was our goal. That was, we had to think about the brand and a company.
Yeah. And, some things that you said that were key. So one of the things is when people said, when I got into real estate after restaurants, how were you so successful so quickly? And I'll tell you, really, it was from my restaurant background, because we had to learn how to be profitable and how to be really good at what we did. And I'll never forget, you were really good at profitability and you were also really good about quality. And I'll never forget that about you. Those were two, but it also took me. And so it's changing businesses. Now you stayed in the restaurant business to do that. And I went into something else. So like when I just opened up a virtual assistant business a year ago and how successful I've been is the same thing. So it's just applying one business to another because restaurants, fail very quickly, most of them. So, but you took obviously your knowledge and were able to figure out your brand and what you guys wanted to do, but also knowing how to be profitable as well, which is the tough part, right?
That's right. And, just like I'm sure you realized at the beginning, there's a lot you have to do on your own. And I talk to a lot of people. I belong to NRA and the Pizza Council. And, one of the big mistakes I see by a lot of people is that they try to hire, outsource, and spend a lot of money before they start making money.
That's right.
And that's the biggest thing. To this day, we're going to be 6 years as a company. And, everyone goes, well, so where's the corporate office? Where's it? My corporate office is in a restaurant. That's probably a 200 square foot restaurant office in the restaurant. We don't have a big office. We don't have, all the frills that a lot of people think you have to be successful. And it's very important that, we didn't take a salary from the company for first 8 months.
Yep, that was one of the questions I definitely was going to ask you, is the profitability. And because, and I get it. And the thing is it's the same in real estate. So people will say, what happens? Because I coach 70 people, across North America in real estate on how to be successful. And one of the things, the biggest issue is profitability. So I'm coaching realtors that, some realtors that I see, and they'll make $3, $4, $5 million a year in commissions, and actually once they take it home, it's maybe $200,000 or $300,000 in their pocket because of exactly what you're talking about, and they aren't managing the money up front like you do.
That's right. And we again stay on that same philosophy of, even today, Doug and I could take a lot bigger salary, right? And we don't, because every dollar that we have, we put it back into the company to grow the company, right?
That's
Again,
right.
To build a company and to build a brand. And that every day, that's what we have to think about. And, we could actually go with cheaper ingredients. There's a lot of things we could do to hurt the brand and make more money. But again, I think you realize the difference between a company and a branded company. And that's what we try to do to make sure that that we are fulfilling that goal every day.
Absolutely. So tell me about, how did you prepare yourself for uncertainty? Because obviously when you're first opening, is it going to be successful? Are we going to have the money? Are we going to be profitable? Are we going to, everything out there, right? What's our culture? What do we want it to be? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we had meetings, as we looked at the other concepts, and we're looking into franchises. But once we made the commitment that we were going to do it ourselves, there was a daily meeting, probably 5-6 hours a day, every day, really nailing down the vision, right? Because you have to have the vision. Right. You both have to be on the same page with the vision. Doug and I have known each other as long as I've known you, right? And we pretty much worked together. I think a couple of years we did, but it's very hard. Sometimes his vision changes, but we have to compromise. It's just like a marriage, right?
That's right.
It has to be a marriage. And sometimes he wants to do things to the left and I want to do things to the right. And we have to sit down and work those out. But at the end of the day, it has to stay with the same belief that we started the company with. And if it doesn't fall in that bucket, then we don't do it, right? So it really is, and keeping simple stupid was part of our goal too, right? We looked at companies that were very successful, and just like anything else, everyone wants to try to broaden the menu or open different concepts, and we kept it pretty simple. Our pizza, salads, and fast and high quality and good service. I mean, those were our key elements,
Right, so. Absolutely. And like you said, you guys had a vision, and you want everything that you guys did, you made sure your decisions were made upon that vision.
That's right.
Okay. And then were you guys planning on opening 4 stores in your first 6 months of being launched? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. Look, we came from the casual world, right? And casual dining. And so fast casual's, probably a third or even a quarter of what an average, casual dining did in sales volume. So realistically, we knew that we had to grow the concept fairly quickly to make money, right? Because we all couldn't live off of one restaurant,
right?
And it wouldn't be enough money for what we're used to making, right? So the goal was to do, 2 or 3, but then as a concept, took off, it was, people started calling us, asking us to take over existing spaces, because our goal was very simple too. We bought what they call in the business second generation restaurants. We didn't go out and be fancy and build these ground up design. We took over old restaurants that fit our model, had a line, had a hood, had bathrooms, and shoot, whatever. And then, we built this Fire Pie around that restaurant. So that really made it very easy for us to do very quickly. And we got, one of our restaurants we flipped in less than 40 days.
Wow.
And even one, even as lately as quick as 22 days. So, average is about, if a ground up, it's about 60 days. But that is the beauty of our concept, that we take over existing restaurants. And these things fell in our lap. We actually had landlords actually willing to give us money to open these restaurants. So that was very exciting, right? So by first year we were already at working our 6th restaurant. So
wow. I remember
fun.
when, and the reason why I think that's so crazy is I remember my first restaurant that I opened as being the general manager, and that was Wheaton. Okay.
Yeah.
California Pizza Kitchen in Wheaton. And I watched it, and I watched what they did, and it was crazy how long it took, how complicated it was. And then of course out there and hiring and training and everything else we did. I don't know if you remember, if you were even there, we had one of the managers say, "There's not even one person here that can run that oven." Were you there? And that was Kurt. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Because it was complicated. It was crazy.
Yeah. And Wheaton failed for CPK, right? And it was an experiment. How big? You remember how big that store was from the original store, right?
Yeah.
So again, it goes to show sometimes bigger is not always better, right?
Because we never even used that second bar.
No, we didn't. Never did. The kitchen was humongous. Remember that?
It was tough to run.
Second bar. It was a bar.
And you couldn't make it profitable. I mean, that store it was just next to impossible to make profitable because of that, right?
That's right.
And so, and exactly what you're saying. Plus, it was very expensive to build. And I don't know if you were involved with all that, but it was crazy the amount of money to keep that store going. So when I hear you say that, so that's really smart, taking over existing restaurants and even having landlords reach out to you because they know you're going to pay them, right? So they'll help you because they know that their place is going to be rented. That's
absolutely. And, it's, a lot of people that go into even franchisees, landlords, you're in the real estate business, right? Franchisee is a little scary on that real estate side, right? Because they're opening their first restaurant. A lot of times they've never even been in the restaurant business before. And the odds are, only 1 out of 10 make it. So for a real estate person, a landlord, that's scary, right? But because of our background, our success story, where we came from, we were operators, right? And people love to hear that story, that we knew the business. And I've been in the business so long, and so.
Well, and we worked hard, and we figured out how to make it work. Remember Rick and Larry when they first started with California Pizza Kitchen? They hadn't done restaurants, right?
No, they had not. And they got our stores. We can say it now. The first couple of years, CPK was not profitable. We had lines out the door, but we weren't profitable, right? So, So.
And you and I were both good at figuring it out to make it more profitable, but that's tough. I mean, for as many hours as we work in the restaurant business, day in and day out, and then having to figure out how to make it profitable in all areas. I mean, that's a tough business. So you open. In 6 short years, you've opened 21 restaurants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how have you been at being successful at getting the locations and being profitable? How have you done that?
Well, for us, we looked at, we need day part, a big day part and dinner part, right? We looked at, we used some good data that we've learned in the past. And one of the things for fast casual that we learned very quickly, our first 2 stores were by Starbucks. And for some reason that seemed to click, right? And then we started looking at, Starbucks spends a lot of money on their data and where real estate works. They spend a lot. And then Chipotle was hot at the time, right? And that's where this concept kind of originated from. So if there's a Chipotle around, that really became another avenue that we looked at. And, visibility was good. But, we really, again, we were very selective. We could have did all these big new development sites, new build ground up, which like the Wheaton, right, would have cost a lot of money,
Right.
a lot of design costs, a lot of the ground study, all this. Taking over an existing restaurant saved us a lot of time, a lot of money, and that's really it. We didn't do our first gray shell, as we call it, or brand new restaurant fire pie design till store 8 or 9.
Wow.
So, but that was really looking at good areas, and really it's boots on the ground, right? We would go to restaurants in the area. We would go to sit in Starbucks. We would go talk to people. We talk to other restaurants. We'd spend weeks, months in that trade area, and we still do that right now. And so that really is the key for us. Is you can't. There's all kind of programs, and I think they work, and I use them at CPK. I use them at Oregano's, but at the end, that gives you an idea, and I use those. But at the end of the day, it's got to be your gut and what you see and feel on the ground. I can't make that decision sitting in my office or at my home and knowing if that's going to be a good site, what's on paper, right?
Right.
You've got to be out there and look at it.
And,
right?
and how long did it take you guys to go from thought, okay, literally, to putting it down on paper, to figuring out your vision, your concept, your brand, to actually putting it in action?
Well, we got pretty lucky. I mean, probably from the time we decided to do this, and then we decided not to do franchising and just work on Fired Pie, it really was only about 90 days.
What?
And we opened the first restaurant in that 90 days. So we went out and bought a restaurant, started about 60 days into it, and within that 30 days, we were opening our first Fired Pie.
Okay,
and,
now everybody who's listening out there, that is very high risk. So that's not usually what people are doing.
That's right. It's normally not done that way. But, again, I can tell you, we had, 90 years of experience, right? If you think about it. And look, I opened almost all the CPKs, and, we had a partner, Rico, that had done entrepreneurial. His family was in their pizza business a long time. He had done restaurants also. So we had the experience, and I knew how to hire. I knew, I'd opened all these restaurants with CPK. I knew what the flow of a restaurant, if I didn't have the operational experience, you would never have done that. And look, we made errors in that first restaurant, and we corrected those errors and moved to the second restaurant. We made different errors in the second and by the third, but the beauty of it was that we had the flexibility, and sometimes people get stuck in a box, right? And they wanted to work only this way, and it had to work this way because that was their vision. Well, sometimes our vision had to change a little bit, right? Because we originally, when we were going to do hot items on the salad, we were going to sell different items. And as we got busier and understood the concept, we had to make changes to get flow through and get profitability. So, and to this day, that is the difference than being a franchisee or a corporate. Like if Doug and I decide today that we want to sell breakfast pizzas, which we just launched.
I saw that. That was cool.
Yeah. So we just did it, right? I mean, we tested it, we played with it, then we launched it. And so,
And I went and looked. You guys aren't even open for breakfast, so it's for lunch.
No, it is. We have open now 2 restaurants for breakfast.
Okay, so you're in testing stage.
In test mode, 9:00. We open at 9, and one's in the mall, Fashion Square, and one's downtown, where we have walk-by traffic all day long, and both are doing good. So it's that's the beauty. Now, if you're a corporation or you were, we thought about that 3 months ago, right? And we put it into action a month ago, right? But if you're a franchise or a corporate, it might take you a year to roll something out like that, right? So it's so that's kind of the beauty of being small but flexible,
No, that's awesome. So how long does it take for you to be profitable in one of the locations?
really, but it's kind of difficult to say, right? Because we didn't take a salary.
Right.
So without taking a salary, we were making money, right? We were paying the rent, and we actually were making money. But realistically, even when taking salary, after 6 months, our stores make money, and even in today's world, some make money within the first after 30 days. You know,
Wow.
so it is. Again, we do a lot of cost saving measures, right? I don't go out again when we talk about offices and corporate overhead. Our corporate, I went on, got a good CFO, because that's very important, right? To have a CFO to manage your money, right? You got to have someone, and that's not our expertise. But then it's just Doug and I. There's no middle people. We got general managers only in each restaurant, and then we don't. We have an administrative assistant, and now we have a payroll person, and we hired another accountant. But that's it. That's our corporate office, and when we built our restaurants, a lot of our equipment, our pizza ovens are used, our dough mixers are used, and we pay a third of the cost for those items.
Yeah, but that's just smart. That's smart.
Yeah, it's just, again, when we talk about, only 1 out of 10 restaurants closed, so that means 9 restaurants in the first 2 years closed. That's a lot of used restaurant equipment. And people
and new, right? Basically.
Yeah, it is. And people get caught up that they want the fancy, right? Oh yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to buy this fancy oven. I'm going to buy this equipment, and it costs a lot of money for that, right? So that's how we become profitable so quickly.
That's awesome. So okay, for an entrepreneur out there, okay, in general, it doesn't really have to be restaurant. I mean, it can be anything, obviously. What tips would you give them?
Number one is definitely be finance, right? I know everything you read will tell you, you shouldn't take a salary for the first year, and it's you gotta have enough money to do it, right? And that would be my number one suggestion or tip to do that. But then number two, you don't have to spend a lot, right, to be an entrepreneur. There's a lot of ways to go into business for yourself, and don't always think you have to be the biggest and best on your first endeavor, whatever that is, right? And then again, start off with what you only need, and grow into it, right? That's got to be it. You can always add, but it's hard to start big and go down if you have to. That's where a lot of people struggle. But my biggest, I look at it today, and I think I should have did what I did today probably 5 to 10 years earlier. So I would say don't wait too long. There are chances, there's risk, but the reward outweighs the risk, I think.
Yeah, that is great advice. And like Fred said, cash flow. Okay, so when you get yourself in cash flow problems, that'll take you down quickly.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many restaurants, and look, we get all these people trying to either, give us money, but they're horrible deals. So and I see that's why so many restaurants fail. It's not that they weren't making money. They took bad money, right? And bad money, I mean, there's guys out there giving 35%, 40%, on a dollar. That it's hard. You're just working for the loan company, right? You're not working for yourself. So.
Well, and one thing that you and I, and this is for any business, again, we're just talking about the restaurant business, but we had to make sure, and it's really tough, for your food costs, your labor costs, your operational costs, your so you got to look at everything that you're doing in your business and to figure out all your costs, and do you have enough cash flow, or how are you going to get it so you don't go under?
That's right.
Anyway, so just tell us, okay, where you are, where you're located, so everybody who's listening to here can come in and try your place. Because I personally know at least probably 25 really big agents out in Arizona that are doing really, really well and know lots and lots of people. So tell us where you're at, where you're located.
Sure. So we have 21 locations, all in Arizona. We have 19 in the Valley and 2 in Tucson. Both the Tucson stores are by the university. And in Arizona, we cover everything from Avondale to Santan Valley. So there's, 4 in Scottsdale, 3 in Glendale, Chandler, 2 in Chandler. So 2 in Mesa. We cover pretty much the whole gamut. Our next move is to get a little bit further out in Arizona in Flagstaff, Prescott, maybe Yuma, but we're looking for those sites. But
so even if you know any sites, guys.
Yep, that's right. We're still looking.
That's right. Well, thank you, listeners. So taking this from corporate to entrepreneur, anybody who's out there and thinking about, opening or starting a business and whatever that is, this has been invaluable information today with Fred Morgan. Thank you. And thank you, listeners. Thanks, Fred.
Thank you, Kristin. Nice talking to you.